Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. Life, love, and relationships are not just about finding the right person, they're about being the right person. And when it comes to men and women, value is not about money, looks, or status. It's about how you carry yourself, what you demand, and what you allow. Too many women are sabotaging their own worth without even realizing it, and then wondering why men don't give them the respect, love, and loyalty they deserve. I'm here to tell you the truth. There are certain things that can kill your value in front of a man instantly. And if you don't recognize these patterns, you'll keep running into the same heartbreak over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break something down for you in a way that's simple and real. The first and most dangerous thing that kills your value in front of a man is when you tolerate disrespect. Now, I'm not just talking about the big stuff that everybody can point out like cheating or verbal abuse. I'm talking about the subtle things too. The small ways in which a man tests your boundaries, checks to see how much you're willing to put up with, and slowly chips away at your dignity if you let him. The problem is that too many women mistake tolerance for love. They think if they just keep being patient, if they just keep giving him chances, one day he'll wake up and realize how amazing they are. But let me tell you the truth. Men don't wake up and respect what they've been allowed to disrespect for weeks, months, or even years. What you accept becomes the rule of how you will be treated, and once you allow it, it only gets worse. Disrespect comes in many forms. It might start with him showing up late and not calling to let you know. You brush it off because you don't want to seem nagging, but in that moment you've taught him your time is negotiable. Then it might move to the way he speaks to you, throwing slick comments, little jokes that make you feel small. You laugh it off because you don't want to cause a scene, but once again, you've taught him your feelings aren't a priority. Before long, the disrespect grows, and now you find yourself in a relationship where your needs, your voice, and your worth are on the back burner. The tragedy is that it didn't start that way. It started with one little thing you overlooked, and from there, it snowballed. That's why you have to recognize disrespect the moment it appears, no matter how small, and shut it down. Not later, not after he does it a dozen times, but the very first time, because every time you let it slide, you give away a piece of your value. Now, let's be clear here. Respect is the foundation of every relationship. Love without respect is dangerous because it makes you hold on to someone who does not honor you. And if a man doesn't respect you, it doesn't matter how much he says he loves you. It doesn't matter how many gifts he buys you. It doesn't matter how often he shows up in your bed. Without respect, he will never truly value you. That's why it's your job from the very beginning to set the tone. If you don't demand respect, you won't get it. And the way you demand it is not by yelling, not by begging, but by calmly walking away from anything that makes you feel less than the queen you are. A man will learn quickly that you're not the type to play with, and if he doesn't step up, you'll step out. That's what earns respect. Some women fear that setting boundaries will push men away, and they're right. It will push the wrong men away. The ones who wanted to use you, manipulate you, or waste your time will leave, and that's a blessing. But the right man, the one who's serious, the one who understands what it means to be a partner, he will rise to the standard. You see, men are natural competitors. When they see a woman who values herself, they know they've got to bring their A game or lose her. And that's what you want. A man who chooses to respect you because he knows your worth, not one who sticks around because you've made it easy for him to disrespect you. I've met so many women who told me they stayed in relationships hoping the man would change. They stayed quiet, they stayed tolerant, they kept forgiving the same patterns over and over. And you know what happened? Years later, they looked back and realized the man never changed. What changed was them. They became smaller versions of themselves, always second-guessing, always compromising, always bending. That's what disrespect does to you. It doesn't just kill your value in his eyes, it kills your value in your own eyes. Because when you start ignoring your own voice, your own needs, and your own standards, you begin to lose sight of just how valuable you are. And once you lose that, it's even harder to expect a man to see it. Ladies, I want you to understand something powerful. Your silence is not keeping the peace, it's destroying your worth. Every time you hold back and don't speak up when something bothers you, every time you tell yourself it's not a big deal, you're making deposits into a bank of resentment and pain that will eventually bankrupt your self-esteem. Men don't fall in love with women who let everything slide. They fall in love with women who make them better, women who demand accountability, women who stand firm on what they will and will not accept. A man may test your boundaries, but he will respect the fact that you have them. And don't get it twisted. Respecting yourself doesn't mean you have to be harsh, cold, or unloving. It means you know your line and you're not afraid to enforce it. It means when a man crosses it, you don't get angry, you don't beg. You simply step back and let him know he can either meet your standard or lose access to you. That's power. That's value. That's how you show a man what you're really worth. Because at the end of the day, men don't respect women who give away their dignity for the sake of keeping a relationship. They respect women who are willing to risk losing the wrong man to gain the right one. So I say again, the first and biggest thing that kills your value in front of a man is tolerating disrespect. Don't let a man show up late and make you feel like you should be grateful for crumbs. Don't let a man talk down to you and then convince yourself it's just a joke. Don't let a man ignore your feelings and tell yourself you're being too sensitive. You know, when something doesn't sit right with your spirit. You know, when your heart feels uneasy. Trust that. Honor that. Because when you honor yourself, you teach a man to honor you too. That's the lesson. Respect is not optional. It's essential. And the way you protect your value is by never compromising on it, not even once. The moment you stand on that truth, the moment you make it clear that disrespect has no place in your life, that's the moment you step into your power. And when a man sees a woman in her power, that's when he knows he's either got to rise to the occasion or step out of the way. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take my time and deal with something that ruins so many relationships before they even get a chance to grow, and that's chasing after a man. You see, when a woman chases a man, she gives away one of her greatest sources of power, the ability to attract, not pursue. Men are natural hunters. It's wired into them to go after what they want, to prove themselves, to show through their actions that they are worthy of your time and attention. But when you flip that dynamic and start chasing him, calling all the time, texting constantly, adjusting your life to fit into his, what you've really done is told him loud and clear that he doesn't have to put in effort to keep you. And the truth is, men do not value what comes too easy. Now, let's be honest here. The chase doesn't always look desperate at first. Sometimes it looks like excitement. Sometimes it looks like trying to show him how much you care. Sometimes it's even disguised as being supportive. But at the root of it, chasing comes from fear. Fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear that if you don't do more, he won't choose you. And the moment fear becomes your driving force in a relationship, your value takes a hit. A man can sense when you're moving from a place of desperation, and even if he doesn't consciously admit it, subconsciously he starts to pull back. He doesn't see you as the prize anymore. He sees you as someone competing for his attention. And when you compete for a man's attention, you've already lost. A woman of value understands that she is the prize. She knows she doesn't have to convince anyone of her worth because it's already evident in the way she lives her life. She doesn't chase because she's too busy building, too busy thriving, too busy being whole. She's magnetic, and that magnetism makes men lean in, makes men want to earn her presence. That's the difference. When you chase, you weaken your magnet. You take away the mystery, the power, the grace that makes men step up. Instead, you hand over control, and once you do that, it's very hard to get it back. And let's talk about how chasing looks in real life, because a lot of people don't even realize they're doing it. It's rearranging your entire schedule for a man who never makes time for you. It's calling him over and over again when he doesn't return your messages. It's showing up for him in every way, emotionally, financially, physically, when he hasn't even proven he's willing to show up for you. It's making excuses for his lack of effort and then overcompensating with your own. And ladies, let me tell you, when you do all that, you might think you're proving how much you care. But what you're really proving is how much you're willing to lower your standards. You're teaching him that you'll accept crumbs, that you'll carry the weight, that he can do the bare minimum and still keep you around. And the moment he learns that lesson, your value in his eyes drops. Now, some women chase because they've been told all their life that they need to fight for love. They've been fed the idea that if you just hang on tight enough, if you just give more, if you just prove yourself, eventually he'll realize your worth. But here's the truth. If a man doesn't see your worth from the start, He's not suddenly going to wake up and value you just because you worked yourself to the bone trying to keep him. Real men recognize real value without you having to beg for their attention. They step up because they see the opportunity of a lifetime standing in front of them. They don't need to be chased. They need to be challenged to rise. The sad part is, chasing doesn't just hurt how a man sees you. It also hurts how you see yourself, because after a while, you start to feel tired, drained, and unappreciated. You start wondering why he's not giving you back the same energy, why you're always the one initiating, planning, caring, supporting. And deep down, you know the answer. You've been chasing someone who never had the intention to run toward you in the first place. That's why chasing leaves you empty. It keeps you locked in a cycle of giving without receiving, hoping without seeing results, and slowly losing sight of your own worth in the process. But here's the powerful shift. When you stop chasing, everything changes. When you decide to focus on yourself, when you decide to live your life fully, pursue your passions, protect your peace, and let him decide whether he wants to step up, you take your power back. You remind yourself that you are the one who chooses, not the one waiting to be chosen. Men feel that energy. They know when they're dealing with a woman who doesn't need them but is willing to make room for them if they add value. And that's the kind of woman a man respects. That's the kind of woman a man works for. Let me make this clear. The right man doesn't want to be chased. He wants to earn. He wants to feel like he's contributing, like he's building something with you, like he's working to win the love of a woman who knows she's worth every effort. And if you deny him that chance by doing all the work yourself, you rob both of you of the real experience of love. Love isn't about chasing, it's about mutual pursuit. It's about two people showing up, putting in effort, and meeting in the middle. When it's one-sided, it's not love, it's desperation on one end and convenience on the other. So ladies, don't chase. Don't call 10 times when he's not responding. Don't put your life on hold waiting for his attention. Don't bend over backwards to prove that you're worth his time. Because the truth is, if he doesn't see it already, he never will. Let him do the chasing, let him prove himself, let him rise to meet your value. And if he doesn't, then he was never the one for you in the first place. Because the man who truly wants you will never make you question whether or not you should be running after him. He'll be right there, putting in the work to keep you, showing up with consistency, effort, and respect. When you stop chasing, you shift the balance. You put yourself back in the position of power where you belong. You remind yourself that you are worthy of being pursued, not begged for scraps. And when you stand in that truth, you'll see that the wrong men fall away and the right one rises. That's the beauty of knowing your worth. You no longer have to chase because everything meant for you will find you. And the man who truly values you will make sure you never have to run after him. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about something that silently destroys the value of so many women in front of men, and that's losing yourself in the relationship. Now, I don't mean falling in love, because falling in love is a beautiful thing. I'm talking about the moment when you begin to let go of who you are, what you stand for, and what you've worked for, all in the name of keeping a man happy. That's when you stop being the woman he fell for and slowly become a shadow of yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens piece by piece, choice by choice, until one day you wake up and realize that you've built your whole life around him and forgotten to live for you. And let me tell you something, when a woman loses herself, her value doesn't just drop in his eyes, it drops in her own eyes first. At the beginning, every woman comes into a relationship as a full person. She's got dreams, passions, goals, a personality that shines. That's what attracts the man in the first place. He sees a woman with ambition, with energy, with her own life. But somewhere along the way, some women start to believe that the only way to keep love is to sacrifice those very things. They stop chasing their goals because they're too busy chasing his. They stop hanging out with friends, stop taking care of their own needs, stop nurturing their individuality, because the relationship becomes the center of everything. What they don't realize is that this very act of giving up themselves is what slowly kills the spark. A man didn't fall for you because you revolved around him. He fell for you because you had your own light. When you dim that light, you take away the very thing that made you magnetic. I've seen women abandon entire careers because a man didn't like the hours they worked. I've seen women stop pursuing their hobbies because he wasn't interested in them. I've seen women stop traveling, stop socializing, stop dreaming, just to make sure they were always available for him. And while they thought they were showing love, what they were really doing was shrinking themselves. And when you shrink yourself, you don't just lose your value, you lose your identity. Because the truth is, no relationship is supposed to swallow you whole. It's supposed to complement who you are, not erase who you are. Now let me tell you how men think. Men respect a woman who has her own life. They may complain sometimes, they may test your priorities, but deep down, a man feels drawn to a woman who doesn't make him her entire world. Because when you keep your independence, when you keep your passions alive, when you keep your friendships and your identity intact, you send a message. I want you in my life, but I don't need you to be my whole life. And that message, ladies, is powerful. It tells a man he has to keep working, keep contributing, keep showing up, because you're not dependent on him for your happiness. But the moment you lose yourself, the moment he realizes you've given up your own joy just to cling to him, he starts to lose respect, because whether he admits it or not, every man wants a partner, not a project. Losing yourself also creates resentment. At first, you may feel proud of the sacrifices you're making. You may tell yourself you're just being a good partner. But over time, the emptiness sets in. You start to miss the old you, the woman who had her own dreams, her own confidence, her own fire. You start to feel unappreciated because you've given up so much and he doesn't even seem to notice. And then bitterness creeps in. Suddenly, small disagreements turn into big fights because you're not just upset with him. You're upset with yourself for abandoning who you are. And the sad part is, he didn't ask you to lose yourself. You thought it would make him stay, but in reality, it only made the relationship weaker. The most attractive thing you can be in a relationship is whole. Whole doesn't mean perfect. Whole means complete on your own. Whole means you can stand tall with or without him. Whole means you bring your full self into the relationship, not half of yourself waiting for him to fill the rest. Men are drawn to women who radiate independence and confidence. They may not always say it, but they feel it. And when you lose yourself, that energy disappears. You start to cling instead of attract. You start to beg instead of inspire. And that shift changes everything. Think about it. How can a man respect your value if you've stopped respecting your own? How can he chase you if you've already abandoned the very things that made him want to chase you in the first place? The truth is, a woman's power is in her individuality. It's in the way she carries herself, in the way she prioritizes her life, in the way she refuses to put herself on the shelf just to please someone else. That's the kind of energy that makes a man proud to stand beside her. So many women make the mistake of believing that love means sacrifice. And yes, love does require compromise, but there's a difference between compromise and surrender. Compromise is when two people meet in the middle. Surrender is when you give up everything just to keep the other person satisfied. And when you live in surrender, you'll always feel like you're losing. That's why you've got to protect yourself, protect your goals, protect your passions, even inside the relationship. Because the moment you lose yourself, you also lose the respect and admiration that keeps a man invested. I'll tell you this, the strongest relationships are the ones where both people continue to grow, where she keeps reaching for her goals, he keeps pursuing his, and together they push each other to new heights. That's what keeps the love alive, growth, challenge, respect. But if you stop growing, stop dreaming, stop being you, the relationship stops evolving. And when it stops evolving, it starts dying. So ladies, hear me clearly. Never lose yourself in the process of loving someone else. Because the truth is, the more you stay true to who you are, the more valuable you become in his eyes. The more you continue to thrive, the more he respects you. The more you protect your identity, the more he sees you as someone he can't afford to lose. That's the secret to keeping your value. It's not about giving up yourself. It's about bringing your full self into the love you share. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share a truth that so many people don't like to face, and that is how insecurity kills your value in front of a man. Now, when I say insecurity, I'm not talking about the little doubts or moments of nervousness that every human being experiences. I'm talking about when those doubts become the foundation of how you see yourself and how you carry yourself in the relationship. When you don't know your worth, you end up seeking validation from a man instead of standing in your own confidence. And the moment you start looking to him to prove that you're enough, your value in his eyes begins to shrink. Because here's the truth, confidence is magnetic, but insecurity repels. A confident woman doesn't have to ask over and over, "Do you love me? Do you really want me? Are you really staying? She knows her value, so she doesn't need constant reassurance. But when insecurity takes over, you start to nag, to compare, to question every move he makes. You check his phone, you scroll through his social media, you analyze his every word trying to find hidden meanings. And what that shows him is that you don't trust yourself enough to believe you're worthy of his love. It's not attractive, and over time it wears him down. A man can only hear so many doubts before he begins to believe that nothing he does will ever be enough. And when he feels like he'll never be able to satisfy your insecurity, he eventually stops trying. The saddest part is insecurity doesn't always come from the man in front of you. Sometimes it comes from old wounds, an ex who betrayed you, a father who abandoned you, a past that made you feel like you weren't good enough. But if you don't heal those wounds, if you don't face them, you carry them into every new relationship like heavy luggage. And no matter how much the man in your life tries to love you, you'll sabotage that love because deep down you don't believe you deserve it. You'll push him away with your doubts, your fears, your jealousy, and then when he leaves, you'll tell yourself it's proof that you weren't worthy in the first place. But the truth is, he didn't leave because you weren't worthy. He left because your insecurity never gave him room to love you the way he wanted to. Men are drawn to women who radiate certainty, not arrogance, not perfection, but a quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I know I deserve to be loved with respect. That energy makes a man step up. That energy makes him proud to claim you, to show you off, to invest in you. But when your energy is filled with insecurity, he doesn't see you as a partner. He sees you as a project. And men don't want projects. They don't want to spend their life constantly convincing someone of their value. They want a woman who already knows her worth so they can build together, not someone they have to fix. Let me make this plain. Insecurity doesn't just kill your value in his eyes. It kills your happiness in the relationship. Because when you don't believe you're enough, you can't even enjoy the love you do receive. He could be the most faithful, loyal, supportive man in the world, and you'll still doubt him. You'll still question his loyalty. You'll still assume he's comparing you to other women. And eventually, that constant negativity will poison the bond between you. You can't build love on suspicion. You can't create joy out of fear. If you don't deal with the insecurity inside you, you'll never truly feel secure no matter how good the man is. Think about this. Insecurity makes you settle. When you don't believe in your worth, you'll accept less than you deserve. You'll stay with men who don't treat you right because you think you can't do better. You'll tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, and neglect because you're afraid no one else will want you. And when you live like that, your value shrinks not just in his eyes, but in your own spirit. You stop demanding the best because you don't think you're worthy of it. But the moment you realize your value, the moment you step into your confidence, you'll never settle again because you'll know that love is not about begging, competing, or proving. It's about two people meeting as equals. Men respect women who respect themselves. And the way you show self-respect is by refusing to let insecurity run your life. It means you don't compare yourself to every woman he talks to. You don't stalk his every move. You don't need to be the center of his world every minute of the day. Instead, you live your life with fullness. You focus on your goals, your growth, your joy. You give love without fear because you know that even if this man walks away, you will still be whole. That's the kind of strength that men admire. That's the kind of value that can't be shaken. Now, don't get me wrong. Every woman has moments of doubt. That's human. But the difference between a woman of value and a woman ruled by insecurity is that the first doesn't let her doubts control her. She checks them, she works on them. She reminds herself of who she is. She speaks life over herself instead of tearing herself down. And because she does that, she shows up in her relationship as a source of peace, not chaos. A man can build with a woman like that. He can rest in her presence because he knows she's not waiting for him to validate her. She already validated herself. So, ladies, hear me when I say this. Insecurity is not just a feeling, it's a thief. It steals your peace, it steals your joy, and it steals your value in front of a man. But the good news is you can fight back. You fight it by loving yourself, by affirming yourself, by remembering your worth every single day. You fight it by healing from the past instead of dragging it into your future. You fight it by realizing that no matter who stays or who leaves, you are enough. And when you live in that truth, your value doesn't just increase, it becomes undeniable. Because nothing is more powerful, more magnetic, and more attractive than a woman who knows she's worthy, with or without a man.